Being typically British, I, for the most part, find discussing money rather distasteful. After all, people really do come up to you at car meets and say, how much did you pay for it? How much do you earn? What's your blood type? What's your mother's maiden name? However, today, with full transparency, after 13 months ownership, I'm going to give you an insight into 1 year's running cost and ownership cost of the Jaguar XKR-S. And of course, this is going to be very similar to the Jaguar XKR with the identical drivetrain. So let's start her up, remind ourselves of how good she sounds and why I own her, and get into potential running costs for prospective owners. So I purchased the car from a specialist seller based up north here in the UK called Alexander's Prestige, and they've put together a nice pack of all of the service history, invoices, receipts, etc. that go along with the car. If a service history doesn't add value to the car, certainly with that service stamp, it adds that peace of mind and that reassurance to a potential buyer. So service history, I will always add to it, and it provides that overall image of the car's history. What's been done, what might you like to do, and when were the perishables done? The rear tyres might still have tread left on them, but if they were done 6 years ago, it might be worth replacing them because the compound's gone hard and they aren't as grippy. So it provides you that overall image of the history of the car. Now, first car I've ever bought without seeing it first. Took delivery of it and it was a brilliant experience, but I hadn't seen the car, so I took a bit of a risk due to the national pandemic and the restrictions on travel. Couldn't go and see it, did as much research as I could and decided it was the car for me. They did say though, if we got it to you and it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, we'd always take it back. So I had to give £1,000 deposit just to kind of show that commitment, because there is an outlay of time and cost for them to get it down to me, but I got a chance to inspect the car. I was happy with it, absolutely loved it, sounded great, so I obviously then paid the rest of the cash value. Finance is not something I've ever wanted to go down the route of doing with my cars, but I know it's a great option for some people, and it provides brilliant freedom, but it wasn't the route for me. So the kind of the interest on those payments isn't a contributing factor for my ownership cost. So I've just picked the car up from the independent garage that has done my first service and MOT, because Alexander's Prestige did it for me before I took delivery, and they did the supercharge belt and a few other bits like that, so it was just ready to go for a year for my ownership. So let's actually have a look at how much that 1 year service has cost for the XKRS or an XKR. Oh my goodness, that is not what I expected. A picture of me in a mankini. I look good in the nipple tassels though. However, on to the service. MOT passed with flying colours, so no advisories on that. This has got the stock exhaust with the cats on the downpipes, so the tolerances for the emissions were all brilliant. Really low emissions, which is really good to see. There'll be no potential issues in the future. Service then, fairly major service. Total cost £408.29. That is not bad at all, certainly for a specialist car like this. So carry out MOT, service and labour is required, all genuine Jaguar parts used, which is good. Brake fluid change, I asked them to do that. They won't always do that on certainly the smaller interval services, so if it's something you think you might benefit from, ask. So they did that, obviously the oil, and then the pollen filter, that wasn't meant to be part of it, but they said they'd done it. £65 for a genuine Jaguar part. I've no problem with that. If a specialist, if a mechanic looks at the car and thinks, do you know what, whilst we've got the car in, we could just do this, you'd benefit from us just doing that, not bad at all. So £65 for the pollen filter, overall cost £408. I'm really happy with that. At a specialist independent garage, that is really good. So I'm really pleased with that overall. As I say, that's the first big outlay I've had, or compulsory outlay I've had in a year. So overall, very happy with that. Other things that I've chosen to get done, firstly I replaced the rear tyres. They still had a bit of tread on them, but I wanted to upgrade to the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, just for outright grip, and they have been a real improvement, a worthwhile investment. So the rears came to £475. However, that is me finding them as cheap as possible online, and obviously looking at about then £30 to then get them fitted. If you go to a garage and they buy the tyres themselves, they'll obviously put their commission on top of that, because they've got to make a little bit of money from ordering and fitting the tyres. But I purchased them myself, which was a really good route to go down, and I'm very happy that I did that. If you wanted to stick with the Pirelli P0s, then you might be able to get them slightly cheaper, but the rears on the XKRS are very wide. They're wider than the XKR, just to put down that additional power that you get with the XKRS package. I then chose to replace the rear brakes, as the front ones had been done when I bought the car. The pads were Mintex and they were 60 quid. I was able to get those cheap off an independent retailer online. Discs were a little bit more. They were Padgett, so they were a name that I knew and trusted. They were £250 again online, and then I saved the cost of the labour as I fitted them myself. Fairly easy to do. The XKR-S's are a different size to the XKR, so make sure you check that. Moving on from that then, as one of the videos shows, I was wanting to do a little bit of styling, put my own stamp on the car. So first of all, got the calipers redone, same with a lot of cars, the paint fades over time. So I got those painted red and had the emblems re-put on them. They're not the kind of cheap stickers you'd get off eBay, but they're a kind of a textured, very tough wearing sticker that was put on those by a kind of a graphic sticker company. So that looks really good, and then complements the wheels that I got, not just refurbished, but I actually changed the colour on them. I thought, right, I'll put my personal stamp on them, changed the colour for a slightly darker colour, a little bit more of a metallic sparkle in there, really high gloss finish to the lacquer. They look absolutely brilliant, really makes the car stand out. Then I got a bit of paint work done on the roof, just to perfect a few blemishes on there, and Alex sort of did a little bit of a machine polish, etc. So that was then done, and I got a piece of trim in here, machine polished weirdly. Instead of painting it, we saved a bit of money, machine polished it, took a few of the surface scratches out just to bring the cabin up to scratch, and that looks absolutely brilliant. So the total cost of that was, including the service, all in £2,625. Now of course you've got to factor in insurance and tax, but that is so determinant on your situation and where you live that I would discount that for now. So I hope that was a useful insight into potential running costs of a Jaguar XKR or XKR-S. That is what it has cost me for a year. Again, really not too bad considering this car is my hobby, and it's a specialist vehicle that you might expect to have to spend a little bit more on. Obviously I've had good luck. I bought the car with a 12-month warranty, so I had that peace of mind, but nothing catastrophic has gone wrong. So I suppose I've been lucky, but then again I did my research and bought a car that I thought was going to serve me well. So I hope that has been useful. Huge thanks to everyone that has subscribed since the last video. Lots more to come, so keep your eye out on the channel. Take care, and I will see you soon. See you later, folks.